All right, thank you for joining us at Championship Beer. I am the Tramp. We're here at the home quarters, and we're going to talk a little bit about French pressing or Randallizing. We call it Randallizing because Dogfish Head owner Sam Calagione back in 2002 was going to take a beer to a competition called the Lupul and Slam. As you might know from the name of it, very hoppy beer festival. They wanted the hoppiest beers. So he tried to come up with the way to get the freshest hop flavor he could. And the way he came up with was to put hops in the line between the keg and the tap. He built a PVC piping rig that would go in there so that anytime you poured a beer, it would pull the beer through the fresh hops. So you would have, at the most, day-old hops. You know, closer to a couple hours old. People loved it, so he started building more, and then people tried to think about how they could bring that flavor home. So they started to use French presses. Now, if you're going to make coffee with one of these, what you would do, you'd put your coffee grinds in, put some boiling water, just use a tea kettle in there, and let it steep for a little bit, same as you would tea. It's got a little plunger in here, and when you're done steeping, you just push the plunger down, push all the water out of the coffee grinds, and pour your beer. French press for beer is going to work quite the same way. Just we're not using boiling water and we're not using coffee grinds. We could use fresh hops. It's very hard to get fresh hops where I'm at, so we're going to use cereal. For the beer, we'll be using the Terrapin Single Origin Coffee Stout Sumatran variety. Now what you're going to do, open that up, pour your cereal in, this is a smaller press, so I'm using a little bit less than I normally would. I usually try and go a third of the way up, but in a larger press than this one. So this one I'm not getting quite as much cereal as I normally would. You're just going to pour that down the side. Now your coffee stout is not going to have as much of a head as some other beer, but you still got to worry a little bit. You still get a little fizz up.
Cup of coffee in the big time.
Now this is actually much more of a reaction than I got earlier with the Hawaiian. Usually you don't get that root beer float head happening. So that might be something that's a little bit unique to the Sumatran coffee bean. I don't know why that would be, but that's where we're at. So once you've done that, you'll put your lid on. Now as far as plunging, you don't want to plunge all the way. You just want to push the cereal or whatever it is you're using down below the surface. Now you're going to let that steep for a little bit. Now while that steeps, you can do just about anything edible in here. I've tried peanut butter cups, which didn't work that well with a chocolate stout. And I've tried chocolate chips with a strawberry beer that actually did work well. So just trying, the way I would suggest is go with food pairings. Things that you would eat with the beer. Try and see if you can figure out a way to put them in the beer. Maybe put a banana in here with a chocolate stout. Now let's look at some Randallizations that I've done on location. For this we're using the same cereal, but Sunday Morning Stout, which is a clone of KBS.
Savage?
Happened so fast you can't even talk about it. Look.
For this, we're using French Toast Crunch and 1050 from Oscar Blues.
That's the difference between you and me. You talk about it, I do it.
Trying the 20-minute marinade of Sunday morning breakfast stout and cinnamon toast crunch. It's got a nice cinnamon aroma. The Sunday morning breakfast stout is honestly one of the better stouts I've ever had. So here it goes. Has all of the wonderful characteristics of the breakfast stout. It finishes with the nice cinnamon sugariness of cinnamon toast crunch. This is probably Paul's greatest concoction ever.
What do you think?
That's pretty good. I like that.
No, it like cinnamon toast crunch. I totally get it. I get it. It definitely tastes like cinnamon toast crunch, which was basically my favorite breakfast cereal as a child.
It's awesome.
And now I'm an adult child, so it's still my favorite. Oh, I think I can definitely be friends with those there.
Now that this is steeped a little bit, and you can steep it however long you want, depends on how much of the flavor you want. If it's something that has a real subtle flavor, I'd steep it longer. This does not have that subtle flavor, so I'm not going to steep it all that long, just as long as we've been talking. You are going to lose some of your beer to get absorbed by the cereal. You can use the plunger to squeeze a little bit more out. Then you got a coffee stout with a cinnamon flavor, little bit. If it had come from the beer, I would call it a maltiness, but since I know it came from the cereal, I'm not sure what to call it. But it's almost that malty flavor on top of the cinnamon, and it really works well with the coffee bean. This is one of the better French pressings or Randallizations that I've done of a beer. Thank you for watching Championship Beer. It's your boy the Tramp. Follow us on Twitter, Championship Beer, no second I. Like, subscribe, tell your friends.